Listening is the most powerful thing that we can ever do, although it's the toughest thing to ever practice. Truth is not easier to listen to. It is just consistent. This is why God's grace is so important. He will tell us of the truth, have us experience it, remind us of it, put it in our path to reiterate it, and we will somehow still not listen to it. As I was writing this, probably one of the hardest things that we'll ever do in our entire life is just to listen. You hear it all the time. You got two ears, you got one mouth, so you need to listen as much or twice as much as what you talk. Well, I've had a challenge with this throughout my life, but when I went into Proverbs 2 today, it tells us the truth before we need it, which is probably one of the hardest things ever. And these were things that I learned from my pops and my mom very early on in my life, was that they were telling me principal truths, but the test wasn't there yet. So they gave me the answers to the test, but I couldn't see the test. And so when we get truth before we're in the circumstance that we actually need it, it's the hardest time to ever accept it and to listen to it. It's probably one of the hardest things to do is to listen to truth before we actually need it. But what God does is he gives it to us so when trials come, we will be prepared. Sounds like a great theory, but all we have to do is listen. And what I say to everybody with that is, good luck. Why don't we get this party started?
On my mind, I got two shines, so every day I grind. Work in the morning, work in the evening. We's achieving, cause we believing. It's for certain, we put the work in. We ain't stopped just because it's hurting. Right before your eyes, so it's coming to no surprise. The take over is televised. Over and over and over again. Make no mistake, we continue to win. Defeat never known, cause I will not lose. They wanna mimic my moves, but can't walk in my shoes.
Listen is probably one of the toughest things that we'll ever do. One of the greatest songs, I think, by Talib Kweli is Listen. And if you get a chance to be able to listen to that song, it takes you through and it just breaks things down at an incredible rate. Probably one of my favorite songs. It actually walked me through the pandemic when the pandemic happened and every one of our businesses got shut down. At the time, we had salons all over the country. We had Chicago, we had Vegas, we had Hard Rock, we had Carlsbad, California, and everything got wiped out. In addition to my consulting, my keynote speaking, everything that I did, everyone says diversify. But in my diversification, I actually diversified into every single thing that was non-essential. And I remember going to Chicago the day after the riots. So the riots had just happened and I come in the day after, they're still lingering. So there's still stuff happening. It was crazy. And what I did is I turned on, popped in my earbuds, and we were in Wicker Park, North Milwaukee and Damon in that 6 corners. And I was there near the salon. And then I walked the whole entire city, walked all the way downtown and then back. And I had it on repeat, the song Listen by Talib Kweli, which I would invite you to check out. And this is probably one of the toughest things that we'll ever do. It's easy to speak. It's easy to speak our mind. It's easy to speak what our truth is. But the hardest thing to do is to listen. And when in Proverbs 2, it sets us up because God is just saying, like, just listen. Listen to me because I know the tests that are coming. I know the trials that are coming. I know all these things, and I just want you to be prepared. So it's not that I'm trying to punish you by listening. I just need you to store up, because what I heard yesterday from Pastor Ben at Daybreak Church, he was talking about the fact of whatever you're filled up with will lead you, right? And so if we're filled up with truth, we're filled up with wisdom, we're filled up with the Holy Spirit, we're filled up with the love of Jesus, that will lead us. But just be conscious of what you listen to when the trials aren't there, because when the trials do come, then you'll be led by the thing that you were listening to. And that was a big thing today as I went through in Proverbs 2, because listening is probably one of the hardest things that we'll do when we're, in our business. The hardest thing to do is to listen to our team, not to, we see a challenge and we want to solve it, especially being a leader or, a CEO, a CFO, being in charge, being the president of the company. We have the tendency to think that we need to make sure that everyone listens to us. But I tell you, this is where I fell short a lot of times, and where I've learned lessons is when challenges happen, if we haven't listened in the peacetime, the war time is going to be challenging. And what I've said to my crew in the past is that, that wars are won in peacetime preparation. And what God is saying is, while you're peaceful now, before the storm hits, I just want you to listen to my truth. So let's go through. If you're joining us for the first time, my name is Kelly Cardenas. And this is an episode of Inchstones. We have 3 different shows on the podcast. One, which is the way I interview some of the most iconic people in the world. And a lot of people that I see has been my heroes. And because I wanted my kids to see that there was no idols in life to worship, there was just iconic people that you can learn from. And if they can do it, if you're willing to put in the work, you can do those things also, and anything is possible. And this is a part that my parents taught to me, and it's a legacy that I want to go on to my kids. Second is Inchstones, which is an episode like this. We go through 3,000-year-old wisdom, and we see how it can apply to today. We do the corresponding proverb, corresponding day. It's June 2nd. We're doing Proverbs 2. And then I have a show where I go live and I call my friends randomly without them knowing that they're on the podcast till they're on the podcast. And that's called You Have to Meet My Friends. So welcome to this episode of Inchstones. And we want to base it in wisdom and truth. And it's incredible because it not only works towards the spiritual side, but it's from the personal, professional, spiritual, and financial. And so in verse 1 through 10 in Proverbs 2, it sums it up in this: listen, accept, store up, turn your ear, apply it, call out, cry aloud, look for it, and search for it, and then you will understand the fear of God, which will bring endless benefits. You see, we like to do it backwards. I want the endless benefits, and then maybe I'll fear God, and then I can go through all those things. And what God is saying is, first of all, the very first thing to do is to listen. And if we listen to wisdom, we got to be conscious of what we're listening to, and wisdom is the right use of knowledge, and the right use of knowledge, the beginning of wisdom is the fear of God, and the fear of God is just the respect of God. So it's just respecting who created us in the first place. And some people say, like, hey, I've got to believe in this God, whatever it is. Well, if that is your God, then you're going to get wisdom based off the truth of that God. So I would just be conscious of this, but I would look at it and say, first thing that he calls us to do is listen. And when we listen, then we can accept. When we accept, then we store it up. When we store it up, we turn our ear to it. So we're constantly listening for it. It's kind of like when we buy a new car. We buy a new red car. We see all new red cars. If we're really into hip hop, we always hear the song on the radio that is hip hop. If we're in a breakup, we hear breakup songs. Whatever, like, turn your ear towards it and then apply it. This is what he says. After all those things, apply it. And then once you apply it, it's not going to work like magic beans. So he said, call out for it, cry aloud for it, look for it, and search for it. But watch this. He says, call out for it and cry aloud for it. If you call out for it and it doesn't show up, and you truly believe and you trust that that is the truth, then you'll cry out for it. Then you'll look for it, and then you'll search for it. Think of if you lost your dog, or you lost your child, or you lost something that was very valuable to you. First of all, you would look for it, then you would search for it, and you would go to the end of the earth to be able to find it. And this is the pattern that he's taken us down to be able to do it. And then we will understand the fear of God, which is the respect of God. And it will bring endless benefits. And it's not going to be, and as it goes through, this is a tough thing because I wanted the magic beans. I wanted it to be like, okay, cool, I trust you, God, and bang, everything starts happening incredibly. That's not the case. And he walks it down in this. In verse 11 through 19, wisdom will bring discretion. And discretion is the ability to be able to see, like my mom said, you could do anything that you put your mind to, but just because you could do it doesn't make it right. That's what discretion is looking at it and saying, oh, this seems so right. This seems so amazing for someone else. It seems so amazing. It seems shiny, but not every single thing that you can do is meant for you to do. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. And this was probably one of the hardest things because I used to be led by, oh, if I do it and it turns out well, then maybe that's a sign of me being able to do it. And I was constantly looking for signs. And what God is saying is you don't need to look for signs. Listen to truth, because the truth is the same today, tomorrow, yesterday, and 5 years from now. I just had a friend, my friend John Elston, and he reached out to me and he sent me out a proverb. I think it was Proverbs 13:20. And he had showed me that I think it was 9 years ago that he had written it, he had underlined it in his Bible. And when he did, he came back to it today and he said, this is what I'm living. Well, he's living it because what he did is filled up his heart with that, and that led him, right? And that truth is the same today as it was 9 years ago. And truth is that way. So when we're talking about trends have the tendency to change up and switch up. It's funny because I'll watch things with YouTube and I'm learning. I'm not the greatest at it, but I'll listen to people on YouTube and they'll be like, oh, you have to do this and these things work. And then you check the video 2 years later and they're like, you know what? You don't do that at all. This is completely different. Before I heard about tags and keywords and all those things and how important they were. And then I just saw a video the other day and it was like, it doesn't matter at all. It matters the first 30 seconds that you do your video. So it's amazing because with the world, when we go with the world and the world's culture, it'll constantly be changing based off the times. But when we study truth, that truth will be the yesterday, today, and into eternity. In verse 20 through 22 is walking with him and listening to him is highly suggested. And it's one of those things where God is just saying, like, listen to me. But the hardest time that we'll ever listen is when the test is not there. Now, I was when we did the intro today. So as I'm doing the intro, it was if you go back and listen to it, it was a little bit rough. It was a little bit rough because I was reading. As I was reading off my paper that I had taken my notes for, I didn't listen to God just saying, like, speak from your heart about why listening is so important. And I read the notes and I stuttered and stammered, and that just happened in this episode. And what's amazing is what God is saying to us is when you listen to him, he will direct the steps. He will direct your steps. And so walking with him and listening to him is highly suggested. And you'll be able to hear another episode that we're going to do. Actually, I didn't get a chance to do Proverbs 1, but I've got it. And it's all about taking a walk. And when you take a walk, it clears your mind. When you take a walk, it'll clear your mind, then it'll fill up your heart. And then God will bring people into your life that need to hear encouragement and sometimes just need to be listened to. And then you'll be able to share the simplicity of his love with them. But walking with him and listening to him is highly suggested. And when you take a walk and you don't have headphones in, you have no agenda, I tell you, it'll slow you down and you'll start to hear his voice if you will listen. And so as we, as we finish up here is, it was 20 through 32 was the last verse there. Let me see here. I want to check and make sure because let me grab my glasses here. Yeah. So in 20 through 22, walking with him and listening to him is highly suggested. And he's just encouraging us to take the time and to just listen. It's probably one of the toughest things, again, to be able to do. What he said at the end was, it's all there. The truth is constant. The only question remains is, will we listen? I encourage you today. If you're having challenges in a relationship, you're having challenges financially, you're having challenges in your business, you're having challenges wherever, or if everything is going well, any of those situations, I heard it one time where you're either coming out of a challenge, you're going into a challenge, or let's see, you're coming out of one, you're going into one, or you're in one. And most of the time when we're in the challenge, we start listening to anything, start grasping for straws. If you read the book, How the Mighty Fall, it was a great follow-up, not a big production and not a lot of hoopla around it, but it was a follow-up to the book Good to Great by Jim Collins. And in How the Mighty Fall, I would suggest you read it, but it was a small black book and it didn't get much fanfare. Good to Great got fanfare, and when people refer to it all the time, things like that. But then if you read How the Mighty Fall, it actually chronicled how most of the companies in that first book, Good to Great, actually fell, and it listed off 5 reasons why they did. And most of the time, it was because once they got into a challenge, first of all, they had hubris, thinking that if they succeeded before, they would succeed again just because they are who they are. And then when they started to get into challenges, they started grasping for straws. They called it capulation. And as you start grasping for straws while you're in the challenge, that's not the time to start listening because you're already filled up with other stuff, or you're going to grab a hold of the shiniest thing. If you're about to go into a challenge and you don't see it, it's one of the hardest times to ever listen because you don't think that you need it. And when you're coming out of the challenge, a lot of times we have such a short memory that we forget about the challenges that we had, and we think, no, I'm over that now, and so I can move on. We don't take the time to be able to reflect and say, like, should I have listened before that happened? And what God is saying is, in that cycle, he wants to break that cycle and just say, listen to me every single day. I want to lead you. And I want my spirit to be in you, and it will give you every single thing that you need to do on that particular day in those situations. And I'll put principles in place that when the challenge happens, then you'll be taken care of. So that's Proverbs 2. I hope you enjoyed today. I enjoy spending time with you, and I appreciate you. If you haven't got the book, it's the Inchstones, The Vibe Within. It takes you through the corresponding proverb, corresponding day, and it has a 3-month journal in it. So it has the word and then the journal, but it asks the questions. What hit your heart? What verse hit your heart? What did it make you think about? And what action can you add to it today? And then you can see it next to each other. It's the link is in the bio. You need to check out the book. 30 Days of Proverbs, the corresponding proverb, corresponding day. I tell you, will start to transform things. It's not the magic beans. It's not the silver bullet, but it is principle-based wisdom that you will always use. So hopefully you have a phenomenal day. My name is Kelly Cardenas, and I'm officially off the hot seat. Peace, love, and soul.
Nothing more on my mind. I got 2 shines, so every day I climb. Work in the morning, work in the evening. We's achieving, cause we believing. It's for certain, we put the work in. We ain't stopped just because it's hurting. Right before your eyes, so it's coming to no surprise to take over